Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam, and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 37 years. And in that time, I've learned a lot by trial and error, and I'd like to share some of that with you today. I'm thinking about the writing that I've done over the years, the courses that I've taken, and the books that I've read on the subject. And a number of them described the approach that writers take to plotting. So, in other words, the story of your story, how your narrative flows. And some people are what they call plotters, and that's spelled Plotters. Plotters who sit down and plan out their entire story from beginning to end, no detail left unexplored, so that they know exactly where they're going and how they're going to get there. Other people are more what they call pantsers because they just sort of fly by the seat of their pants and they write their way into a story that hopefully will have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and will have kind of a more or less a plot. I have to say that most of my life I've been more of a pantser. I've been one of those people who likes to leave things open-ended because, a new possibility might come along and it might be better than the possibilities that I have had in the past, and I don't want to block that. As I've been on this MS journey, I've realized that that's really not the best way to go about living. I think it's better for us to become plotters if our goal is to remain independent as long as possible, even though we have MS. Because I know an awful lot of us are very independent minded, and I certainly am. Right at the moment, I have a caregiver, my husband. He's wonderful. He picks up a lot of slack for me, does a lot of the stuff that I really can't do for myself or that I would have trouble doing. But can I really assume that that's going to be the way it is forever? I'd like to, believe me, I'd like to, but am I writing myself into a corner, as it were, in the plot of my life if I don't at least think through what I would have to do differently, what I might have to take on if I find myself alone? Because believe me, there will be people that will immediately say to you, oh, you can't live by yourself. Why don't you move in with me? Or why don't you do this? Or I know a really good assisted living place, or what have you. And depending on where you are in your MS journey, you may feel that that's the best option for you. And if you do, that's fine. And I may get there myself. But as of right now, I don't know that that's the direction I would want to go. But I do realize that things would be different if I was on my own. So I probably need to be becoming more of a plotter and less of a pantser. Today, I want to talk a little bit about some of the categories of things where having a list and thinking it through will be useful as I go forward with my life, whether I'm alone or whether I've got my husband with me still. The first category that I want to talk about is, I labeled it self, because it covers the kinds of things that we have to do to take care of our physical selves and our emotional and mental selves as well. And the first thing that came to my mind, of course, is dressing and grooming. We might feel like just lounging around in our jammies all day and never mind taking a shower because who's going to see us anyway? But I don't know that we really want to go that way. And even if we do that once in a while, sooner or later we need to go out. We need to get to a doctor's appointment, or we need to go shopping or church. We need to look halfway nice. So think about that. What would be different if I had to do this all by myself? I've already had to do some accommodation because my hands are just not very dexterous anymore, and I don't really judge things well, and I'm not very good at fastening things and tying things and what have you. It's been years since I wore undergarments that were more than pullover style, because I just kind of can't get there. I can't deal with hooks. And while I'm on the subject, the same thing is true of jewelry, watches, anything that has those little clasps. I can't do that. I cannot manage them anymore. My husband fastens my necklaces for me, and some of my watches when I want to wear those. But quite frankly, I could see where if I were alone, I would never wear those pieces anymore. I do have a number of watches. In fact, I have one on today that I can show you that this is the mechanism that I like. That it just opens like this. The other kind that are the sort of the traditional expanding band that stretches and you just pull it on over your hand, I think that works really well too. But those ones that you have to clasp, not unless you want an exercise in frustration. And quite frankly, my frustration threshold is really low anymore. So I would rather not even bother with any of that. And the same is true with jeans. I am so grateful that they have now begun making stylish blue jeans with a flat band elastic, or well, I shouldn't even call it elastic, but just kind of a pull-on style. But it doesn't look like, your mother's elastic waist pants. It's really very nice looking. You can tuck your shirts in, do whatever you want with it. But it's so much easier because I find that those buttons, especially when the jeans are new and stiff, those buttons are almost impossible for me to fasten. And so if I'm out in a public restroom, I might get stuck in there for a long time just fighting with the button on my jeans. So forget that. I'd rather have the kind that just pull on. So I'm not really much of a fashionista. You might have figured that out. But I do want to look a little presentable. The same would be true for blouses and shirts and pullover tops and sweaters and that kind of thing. I like zippers, but I really don't like buttons. I don't like sweaters that button. I really don't like dress shirts that button because the buttons are really, really tiny. And it's almost impossible, once again, for me to do that. If you find yourself, though, with a shirt you really, really want to wear, I highly recommend one of these. I don't know if you can really see that very well, but it's a button hook that all you do is just take this end and slide it through the buttonhole on your shirt and then hook it around the button and pull it through. It works like a dream, and it works in reverse as well. You can unbutton your shirt at the end of the day just as easily with that button hooker. It has saved my bacon many times, so I highly recommend it. They're not expensive, so go out and get yourself one of those for the times you need to wear a shirt that's got buttons on it. One other thing that I need to talk with you about a little bit is meals, because that's going to be a big thing, right? You get yourself dressed and showered and got your watch on and all, but now you need to eat something. And many of us do not do as much cooking as we might have in the past because either the person who lives with us does the cooking for us or we've resorted to minimal kinds of things. My husband cooks wonderful meals for me, but what if he's not around anymore? I don't have his cooking skills for sure, nor can I stand at the stove for as long as he can. I can't even lift those cast iron skillets that he makes some of those meals in, so forget that. I'm going to have to come up with things that I can make that will be nourishing, but at the same time, easy for me to make. So the criteria that I came up with for making meals, they have to be easy, they have to be healthy, and they have to be tasty. Now, I can't make those decisions for you. That's something that you need to think about for yourself. Make a list of the meals, maybe 10 different meals, that are pretty easy for you to make and that are healthy. Don't resort to Pop-Tarts and bags of Doritos. Please, don't do that. Make yourself a list of the meals that you can make, that are good for you, and that taste good. One thing that you want to remember is that we're grown-ups now, so if we want to eat breakfast food for dinner, we can. And that's fine with me. I could eat oatmeal just about any time. You can put fruit on it and you can use nut butter with it. There's all kinds of ways to make it. It doesn't have to be that same plain, boring stuff that you hated when you were a kid. Well, think about that. Just think about the meals that you might make for yourself. Make a list of those so that you have those handy when you're debating with yourself, what should I make for dinner? Okay, well, the next general category that I want to talk about is housekeeping. You still have to keep the house, right? Maybe you weren't the one who mainly did the dishes or did the vacuuming or did the laundry, but you will have to do that or find some way to get it done if you're on your own. Again, the best way to be prepared is to start paying more attention throughout your days right now. How does stuff get done? If you're not the one doing it, how are they doing it? How is the person doing it? Is that something that you could do? It's not a race to get laundry done in any length of time. You can do it and have it take longer than maybe your caregiver would have. You can put the laundry in, but if you don't have the energy to move it from the washer to the dryer at that moment, okay, then, as long as you don't let it go days and days, it doesn't have to be something you get on immediately. But once again, you need to be observant so that you know what kinds of things are happening around you that maybe you haven't even paid attention to. Well, I know that my husband takes care of things that I hardly even think about anymore. Anything to do with vehicle maintenance, of course, that's his domain, not mine. But he also trims the hedges and the rose bushes and takes care of a lot of the landscaping, the lawn mowing, that kind of thing. So once again, I need to think through those things and decide, how am I going to get those done? Is there someone that I can hire to take care of those things? Is there some way I can do some of them even though I haven't been doing them in the past? Those are just things to think about, but make sure that you don't get caught unawares if you suddenly find yourself alone and realize, oh, I have to take care of all that myself. And by the way, this doesn't even have to be like a permanent loss of the person who's with you. It can just be that they need to be gone for a week or two and you're on your own. Another important one is accommodations around the house. Now, I dream of having a walk-in shower, and right now I don't have one. I have a standard bathtub shower. And I've made it work. I have grab bars and I have a stool, but I would really like to have a shower that I could just walk into so that there's no danger of tripping and falling, especially if I'm going to be by myself. Because I'm not so sure I really feel comfortable climbing in and out of a tub if I'm the only one in the house. Right now, I don't even shower if my husband's not in the house, because one time I fell in the shower, I brought the whole curtain rod down with me. We had to buy a new shower curtain rod for the bathtub because I bent that thing so bad there was no hope for it. So that was a lesson learned. But what it means too is that maybe those accommodations need to move up a little higher. I also got a new toilet that's higher. They call it an ADA compliant toilet, so that it's not as much effort to get up off of it. If you're using a wheelchair, I suppose it's much easier to transfer yourself from the toilet to the wheelchair if you have a slightly higher toilet. But I like it. I have long legs. It works good for me right now, and I'm glad that we did already make that fix. Another thing that you're going to be dealing with is mail. Incoming mail and outgoing mail. If you can get your utility bills on auto pay, that would be great. It works for me. I've been doing it for years, mainly because my handwriting is so terrible that I don't know about writing out so many checks to pay bills, because who knows what I actually wrote. It might be interpreted incorrectly, and I don't really want that. Besides, it's very fatiguing for me to do all that bill paying stuff. I'd just as soon have it go automatically out of my checking account and I don't even have to worry about it. Now, as far as incoming mail, deal with it right away or as soon as possible. Don't let it pile up, because there's nothing more daunting than a gigantic pile of mail. You don't even know what's in there. It might be important, and probably most of it isn't. I'll go through the mail right after it comes in. The main reason for that is that even though a lot of it is mail that's going to go right in the recycle, there's my name and address on a lot of it, and in places that you might not even expect. So it's quite a little process for me every day when the mail comes in. I go through it all, keep what I want to keep, but everything that I'm going to recycle, I go through and I tear my name or my address or any other identifying information off of it. And I cannot stress this enough. People who are alone, people who are older, People who are seen as vulnerable in any way, the scammers seem to find us. And so we get a lot of phone calls from scammers. We get a lot of mail from scammers. And I don't know but that they're monitoring our trash as well. And I'm sorry, I don't want to sound paranoid, but I have heard horror stories of identity theft, and we don't have the energy for that. We, with MS, we just don't. Our energy is already prioritized for the day, parceled out. We cannot be dealing with things that we could have prevented, but we didn't. Please take the time to get your personal information off your mail. Okay, end of lecture. Moving right along. We're sort of talking about money, so let's talk about finances a little bit. Hopefully you have some kind of income or savings or some way of taking care of yourself and paying your bills and having the money that you need to do the things that you need to do. And I'm not going to go into that because that's a personal thing. But again, if you have electronic banking, it makes life a lot easier. You might have noticed I spend quite a bit of time on my computer, and I can do a lot of banking and take care of a lot of bills and a lot of charitable donations and a lot of other stuff just sitting at my computer. And that helps me tremendously. I don't have a lot of things scattered here, there, and everywhere. I just kind of take care of it and it's done. Another aspect of finance that's very important is insurance. Not only medical insurance, but we need home insurance. If we have a car, we need car insurance. We have to make sure that we are getting that taken care of. If we weren't the one who was looking after that, trying to get the best policy, covering the right coverage for the best price. But don't let your policies lapse. Make sure you've got the coverage that you need, because it could be a real problem for you if you don't have the coverage that you need when you need it. And the third category I wanted to talk a little bit about is in some ways the most important of all, and that is your support team. Now, of course, I'm talking about the support for your MS itself, so your neurologist, say your physical therapist, your nurse, your counselor, your support group. Those are all really, really important, and I urge you to keep those up. Don't let any of them lapse. It's very important for you not to let yourself sink into some kind of isolation just because you're alone and things are more challenging and difficult for you. Another thing that you need to think about is transportation. If you are not the one driving, then you'll have to prevail on somebody to drive you to appointments or to go shopping. And as I said earlier, lists are your best friend. If you need to go someplace, making a list, if there's some things that you need, make sure that you get them all on your list, because you don't want to abuse the friendships that you rely on. If you don't shop with a list and then you get home and realize you forgot a key ingredient, then you're going to have to talk to a friend and get another ride to the store again. And that's tiresome for you. And as much as people love you, that may not be all that convenient for them either. So do your best to make lists, both for the errands that you need to run and the items at each place that you need to get when you're there. Now, I realize that I've taken a tone here that I actually didn't mean to take. I'm giving you a lot more advice than I am just telling you what I myself am looking at and the challenges that I see that I would have to think through. And I don't mean to sound bossy, so I apologize if that's how I'm coming across. Of course, you're aware that we have to take care of stuff like that, but I don't know if about you, but sometimes I kind of live in denial. I've got things really good right now. My husband is a wonderful caregiver, and he does take care of so many things. But if I were on my own for whatever reason, there are things I would have to figure out how to take care of. I don't want them slipping through the cracks just because I wasn't even aware that they needed to be done. So paying attention and observing and asking questions is always a good thing, right? Yeah. Okay, well, I'm done. I'm done giving you all that unsolicited advice, for which I again apologize, but I hope it was helpful. I'm going to sit here with my tea in yet another mug. You might think I have a gazillion mugs, But this one I got for free. This was sent to me as a thank you gift when I made a donation to an organization called Accessible Hope, and they are a ministry to women in Sierra Leone who have disabilities. And over in Sierra Leone, the prevailing culture is not one that values women particularly, and disabled women pretty much have no value at all. So this organization does what it can to teach them skills that they can use to make things they can sell in the markets and hopefully make enough money to get by on. And I am drinking vanilla chai tea today, and it is yummy, let me tell you. And it's just perfect for this nice fall day that we're having. So while I'm sitting here drinking my tea, I'm just going to thank you all for being with me today. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.